My own son locked me in my house and left me to die while he went on vacation with his wife. They called it care. I called it a cage. But he forgot one thing. I built this house and I know every wall, every wire, every secret. And when I escaped, I took everything back. The desert sun poured through the crystal walls, burning the horizon gold. Iris Conway stood barefoot on the cold marble floor, her reflection fractured in 100 glass panels. At 67, her hair was silver, but her eyes still carried the same quiet precision that once designed this house, a geometric dream her late husband had built with his own hands. Now, her son's SUV rolled up the sandy driveway, kicking up a storm of dust and entitlement. Landon stepped out first 34 tan, manicured a walking advertisement for desert real estate. Behind him, Ava emerged in a flowy linen dress camera already raised. "Mom, look at this light," she said. Spinning in the entryway, "It's perfect for the renovation series. Millions are gonna love this. Renovation series." The words hit like sand in Iris's teeth. "I thought this was a visit," Iris said, her voice low but sharp. Ava grinned, already streaming to her followers. "It's both family time and content time." Landon slid an arm around his wife. "You'll love it, Mom. We'll fix the place up, boost its value, maybe lease it for retreats. You deserve that kind of comfort." Comfort, another word that meant control. Iris looked around the light. The walls, the ghosts of her husband's blueprint still etched under the glass. The desert wind hissed against the panels, whispering warnings. "You can film," she said finally. "But this house stays mine." Ava just smiled, eyes glittering like camera lenses. "Of course, Iris. We're just here to help." Somewhere deep inside, the air shifted. The glass house listened. Its owner had just agreed to her own imprisonment. The next morning, the desert woke before she did. Light slashed through the curtains, slicing the room into golden cages. Iris blinked, hearing voices outside. Ava's laugh too loud for morning echoing against glass. She stepped out in her robe hair, tied back, finding them rearranging the patio furniture. Drones hummed above, capturing the sunrise aesthetic. Mom Landon called, sweat already gleaming on his temple. "We're setting up zones for the renovation shoot. Just for safety, you'll stay in the studio side for a bit." The studio side, Iris frowned. Ava chimed in, cheerful but sharp. "It's temporary. We'll lock certain doors while filming so the crew doesn't mess up your space. The system's all smart home now. Look." She held up her phone. Beep. The glass door behind Iris clicked, a tiny final sound. Locked. For a heartbeat, Iris said nothing. The wind outside brushed sand against the panels, whispering like static. "So I'm a guest in my own house?" "Oh, Mom," Ava laughed, lowering the phone. "Don't be dramatic. Think of it as your spa wing. You deserve peace while we work." Peace. That word again. The one people used when they wanted silence. She nodded, slowly, eyes tracing the new digital lock, the reflection of her own face trapped behind it. The desert shimmered outside, but the warmth never touched her skin. That night, she lay awake, hearing the faint metallic hum of devices sinking through her home. Somewhere beyond the glass, she realized something precious had just been taken from her control. Night fell fast in the desert. One moment the horizon glowed pink and gold, and the next it was swallowed by blue darkness. Iris stood at the glass threshold watching Ava's film crew pack their lights and leave. The house shimmered under the moon like a mirage, too perfect, too quiet. When she reached for the main door, her fingertips met resistance. The lock didn't budge. She pressed again, harder. Beep. Red light. Denied. She frowned. Landon. No answer. Only the low hum of air conditioning in the main zone. Her own studio, separated by transparent walls, stayed dark and dry. She tried her phone, no signal. Wi-Fi gone too. From the courtyard, she saw her son through the glass, laughing softly, a glass of wine in hand. Ava was beside him, scrolling through footage. Iris tapped the glass once-twice. The sound barely reached them. Ava finally looked up, smiled, and mouthed, "We'll fix it tomorrow." Then she turned back to her phone. Tomorrow. Iris sat on the edge of her bed, eyes fixed on the digital lock glowing faint red. The temperature inside her section dropped. The smart thermostat had reset to energy-saving mode. The hum faded. The silence was absolute. Her breath fogged against the glass as she leaned close. The desert night pressed around her crickets, shifting sand, the distant growl of a coyote. She felt small, framed by steel and light. For decades, she had built spaces for others, warm, open, human. Now she was learning what it meant to live inside a design meant to contain. In the reflection, her face merged with the glow of the lock, one fading the other, pulsing alive. A whisper escaped her lips, half question, half warning. Whose house is this now? And somewhere in the digital heartbeat of the system, the glass house quietly answered, "Not yours." The next morning, Iris woke to the sound of laughter. Not real laughter, but the high-pitched, echoing kind that came from a camera. Ava stood in the kitchen, ring lights glowing, speaking to thousands she couldn't see. "Welcome back, my loves. We're here with our favorite matriarch, Iris Conway. Look at her still glowing at 67. She turned the lens toward Iris, who stood frozen with a coffee mug halfway to her lips. Mom Ava said, voice dripping sugar, "Tell them how excited you are about our desert revival project." Iris blinked at the blinding circle of light. Every instinct screamed to say no. But her son watched from the side. Arms folded, eyes silently urging compliance. She forced a smile. "It's lovely," she said quietly. "I'm grateful you're both so ambitious." Ava giggled, turning to the camera. "See, she's obsessed with design too. Must be genetic applause emojis flooded the screen." The chat scrolled faster than Iris could read. "She's adorable. What a classy mom. Hope I age like her." It wasn't praise. It was consumption. When the camera stopped, Ava dropped the sweetness like a coat. "Perfect. We'll do a Q&A later. Oh, and Mom, try to wear something neutral tomorrow. The blue robe clashes with our brand palette." Iris set the mug down, steadying her hand. "Your brand palette." Ava didn't look up. "Trust me. It's marketing, not personal." Landon entered, placing a tablet on the counter. "Mom, sign this release form. Okay, it lets us feature you in the pilot episode. We'll split revenue once sponsors lock in." Iris studied the screen, her name already pre-filled. Signature space blinking. The woman who had built homes for decades felt like she'd just been rented. She looked through the glass wall at her reflection, between Ava's ring light and the desert sun. For the first time, she saw the truth: she wasn't in their story. She was for sale. Afternoon light spilled across the living room like melted gold. Iris followed the sound of drawers opening, metal scraping, wood paper rustling. Ava knelt on the rug surrounded by boxes labeled "Personal. Do not touch." Landon was filming her with his phone, catching every angle. "Look at these," Ava said brightly. "Letters, sketches her late husband's original plans. It's story gold. The audience will cry." "Put those back," Iris said, her voice calm but edged with steel. Ava looked up, feigning innocence. "We're just showing your love story, Iris. People connect with authenticity." Authenticity. Iris stepped closer. "You're opening coffins." Landon lowered the phone, annoyed. "Mom, don't start. This emotional layer sells the renovation. Your past gives it soul. My past isn't for sale." But Ava was already flipping through a binder. "Oh, what's this?" She held up a folder marked Property Title, Conway Residence. Iris froze. The seal was broken. Her heartbeat pounded in her ears. Ava smiled. We found some old contracts so confusing. You must have signed these years ago, right? She passed the papers to Landon. His thumb brushed over a fresh signature. Yeah, looks recent. Maybe the renewal forms for the remodeling license? Iris snatched the folder. The ink shimmered under the light, her name, but not her hand. The curve of the C was wrong. Too smooth. Too young. She looked up slowly, her voice a whisper cutting through the heat. You forged me. Landon stepped back. Mom, relax. It's just preliminary paperwork. Paperwork to what sell my home. The silence thickened. Outside, a gust of desert wind hit the glass, scattering sand like bullets against the walls. Ava finally smiled, the kind that didn't reach her eyes. Don't be paranoid, Iris. We're family. Iris stared at them both, the papers trembling in her hands. For the first time, she saw not her children, but two strangers rehearsing their lines in a crime scene of sunlight. The desert never truly slept, it just changed colors. By midnight, the glass house glowed like a lantern dropped in an ocean of sand. Inside, Iris Conway sat alone on the floor, surrounded by open boxes of tools her husband once used. Tiny screwdrivers tape a dusty circuit kit still labeled Arduino starter set. Her fingers, once nimble enough to sketch blueprints, straight lines by heart, now trembled. Still she smiled. Old hands, she whispered, but the same mind. On the table beside her lay the property folder, the forged signature staring back at her like a wound. She'd stared at it for hours, tracing the smooth curve of that false C, memorizing the lie. Outside her window, the desert wind dragged sand across the panels, making a sound like whispers. She followed the rhythm. Whispering walls, whispering children. A house that heard everything, but told nothing. She could fix that. Iris picked up one of her husband's old miniature microphones. He'd used them years ago for acoustic testing. She cleaned it, rewired it with a portable chip, and connected it to a battery the size of a matchbox. Then she tucked the device into a hollow ceramic planter shaped like a cactus bloom. Her eyes glinted. Let's see who the house listens to now. By dawn, she had planted 5 of them. One near the patio door, one in the kitchen, where Ava rehearsed her lines, one beside Landon's office chair, and 2 in the living area, hidden behind glossy succulents right under the camera lights. Each mic synced to her tablet. The old woman who had once designed homes now designed a trap. When the first recording came through, she almost dropped the device. Ava's voice muffled but clear. She's starting to suspect. We'll keep her in the studio when the appraisers come. Then Landon. She can't stay here forever, Ava. Once the sponsorship contract is signed, we move her into that care center. She'll be fine, it's luxury. Luxury, Ava repeated, laughing. Funny how guilt sounds when it's wrapped in marble. Iris paused the playback. The room around her suddenly seemed to shrink, her breath catching in the heat. Her eyes drifted to the reflection in the glass wall herself, small but steady, framed by cactus shadows. The desert outside burned white, but inside, something colder was forming. She gathered the recordings, labeling each file carefully with dates and times. Evidence. Truth. As the sun rose higher, light flooded the glass house again, bright, brutal, exposing everything. Ava walked through the door in a silk robe, holding a smoothie. Morning Iris sleep. Okay? Iris smiled faintly, slipping the tablet behind a magazine. Perfectly. The house is quieter now. Ava laughed, sipping her drink. Good. We need peace before the appraisers visit. Remember, stay in the studio during filming, okay? Of course, Iris said. Her tone calm, almost warm, but her gaze lingered on the churning reflection of Ava's image across the panels, warped, multiplied, distorted into 10 identical masks. She wondered how long it would take before the cameras captured the real monsters living inside this perfect, transparent home. As Ava's footsteps faded, Iris whispered to the empty air, "You think I'm Glass Ava, but I'm Mirror. And for the first time since the locks clicked, she felt the power swing slow, silent, and entirely hers. The desert sun hit like punishment. By noon, the glass walls had turned her studio into an oven. Iris wiped sweat from her brow, blinking against the white glare. Every surface steel marble mirror reflected heat back into her skin. The digital thermostat blinked energy saver mode. Locked. She tapped the panel. Nothing. Across the courtyard, she could see Ava filming in the main house, perfectly cool under diffused studio lights. Landon laughed on cue, the air-conditioned breeze ruffling his shirt. The contrast looked obscene. Iris tried to open the connecting door, but the lock's red light pulsed again, mocking her. She sat down slowly, chest heaving. Every breath scraped like sandpaper. "You won't break me," she murmured. "I built stronger things than this." Her gaze drifted to the nearest planter, one of the cactus mics she'd wired last night. She reached for her tablet, hands shaking, and pressed play. Static. Then voices. Ava. "Turn the cooling off on her side. Heat makes her sleepy. We don't need her wandering on camera. Landon, relax, she's fine. She's tough. Tough doesn't mean immortal," Ava replied. "Besides, the sympathy arc works better if she looks frail." Iris froze. The recording kept running, their laughter dripping through the speakers like poison. Something inside her hardened, not anger, not yet, but precision. The same focus she once used drafting load-bearing structures now anchored her heartbeat. She typed a quick note under the file. Day 3. Neglect as leverage. Intentional. When she looked up, a shimmer of air rippled before her eyes, heat waves dancing like ghosts. Outside, the palm leaves rattled like paper flames. She walked to the sink, filled a bowl with melting ice, and pressed it against her neck. The shock woke her body, sharpened her mind. "They want frail," she whispered to her reflection in the glass. "I'll give them focus instead." And with that, Iris sat back down, rechecking each signal from her cactus microphones, each heartbeat of her rebellion, while the desert roared around her, trying and failing to silence her will. The knock came soft but steady like a memory. "Iris, you home, honey?" She shuffled to the glass door. On the other side stood Martha and Ron Becker, her neighbors from 2 houses down, retired teachers who spent their mornings tending cacti and talking politics over iced tea. Martha's face was pink from the sun, her hands holding a silver thermos beating with condensation. "We saw your lights flicker all night," Martha said, peering through the glass. "Thought you might need some cold water." "Lord, it's like a furnace out here." Iris smiled faintly, unlocking the smaller side gate, the only door she still controlled. "You're angels. Come in well as far as the gate allows." Ron handed her the thermos. "They cut your air again. We heard those influencers talking about power saving." He made quotation marks with his fingers. Sounded like nonsense. "They're filming?" Iris said carefully, choosing each word like stepping stones. "Everything's temporary." Ron frowned. Temporary shouldn't mean cruel. For a moment, the three stood in silence. The wind picked up, brushing sand across their shoes. Martha leaned closer. "You sure you're okay, Iris? You look pale." Iris unscrewed the thermos and drank deeply. The cold slid down her throat like mercy. "I'm fine. Just heat." Martha studied her eyes, the steady way she held herself. "If you ever need us to stop by officially or quietly, you know where we are." "I know," Iris said. She reached through the gate and squeezed Martha's hand. But not yet. Ron nodded slowly, as if he understood more than she said. "You always were the quiet planner type." When they left, Iris watched their silhouettes fade into the glittering sand. She closed the gate and leaned against the wall, listening to the faint hum of her hidden recorders inside. Not yet. It wasn't time for rescue. It was time for proof. The desert wind hissed again, but this time she whispered back, "I'm not alone. Just not ready to be seen." The email arrived just after dawn, its subject line glowing innocently. "Order confirmation. Conway Residence Project." Iris blinked at the words. She hadn't ordered anything. She opened it. Rows of invoices filled the screen, ceramic tiles, tempered glass panels, lighting systems, all billed under her full legal name, Iris A. Conway. Total $48,720. Her throat tightened. The contractor's note read, "Thank you for confirming design approval, Ms. Conway. We'll deliver by Thursday, confirming." She scrolled down to the attachment, her electronic signature perfectly replicated. Even the curl of her Y matched, except she hadn't touched a computer in 3 days. Her pulse drummed in her ears. She downloaded every document, printing copies with trembling fingers. Paper whispered into the silence, stacking like evidence. Footsteps echoed outside Ava's laughter, syrupy as ever. "Morning lovebirds," Ava called to the crew. "Big week." Big reveal. Iris minimized the window, hiding the printouts under a sketchpad. Later, when the house emptied, she sat at her drafting table. The invoices lay before her in neat rows, each one linked to a vendor she'd used decades ago, her old professional contacts. Landon must have accessed her archive. He'd known which names would look authentic. She picked up her pen and began drawing not blueprints this time, but lines of connection, vendors, dates forged, authorizations, bank transfers. A network of deceit mapped across the page. In the center, she wrote 2 words in red ink, "Chain of fraud." Then she opened her tablet and backed up every file into 3 drives, one labeled H, one M, and one Truth. The desert outside burned pale and quiet. They thought she was a relic, too old, too slow. But she was still an architect, and this time she wasn't designing homes. She was building a case. The country club looked like a palace, dropped in the middle of the desert, white pillars, glass chandeliers, and waiters moving like ghosts between palm trees. Iris watched from the parking lot, her old sedan, hidden behind a row of imported cars. Through the tinted window she could see them, Landon in his tailored sand-colored suit, Ava in a backless cream dress that screamed success. They moved through the lobby like royalty. Their smiles weren't warm, they were weapons. Iris adjusted the small tablet on her lap. The signal from her hidden mic, the one inside Ava's cactus-shaped purse charm, was crystal clear. She hit record. "Thank you all for coming," Ava began, her voice dripping honey. "The Desert Revival Project is more than a renovation. It's a legacy restoration. A chance to transform an aging architectural relic into a sustainable design masterpiece." One of the investors, a man in a navy blazer, asked, "And the current owner, Ms. Conway?" "She's fully supportive." Landon leaned forward, charm polished to perfection. "Absolutely. My mother believes in progress. She's given us full authorization to manage everything." Iris tightened her grip on the tablet. Ava added, "She'll appear in the finale episode, a symbolic handover moment. Viewers love generational transitions." Another voice, female, skeptical. "And she signed the transfer of design rights." "Yes," Ava said, smoothly flipping through a portfolio. "We have all the documentation." There was a soft swish of paper. The forged signature, her name passed across the table again, this time under champagne light. The investors murmured approval. "Well, it's an inspiring story," one said. "A son and his wife revitalizing his mother's creation." Ava smiled. "Exactly. Family rebirth." Landon laughed lightly. "You'd be amazed what old spaces can become when you take control of the design." Iris's pulse throbbed in her throat. Take control of the design. That was what they were doing to her life, rebuilding it, erasing her, and calling it art. Then Ava's tone shifted. Too casual, too honest. "Once she's moved into assisted living, we'll handle the property transfer officially. It's just a matter of logistics." There it was. the sentence she needed. Iris froze. The recording played it again, slowly. Once she's moved into assisted living. Her husband's old watch ticked softly on her wrist. He'd always told her designs fall apart if you don't anchor the foundation. She smiled, thin-tired, dangerous. Outside, the wind carried sand across the car's windshield, scraping it like whispers. Inside, Iris organized her files. She renamed the audio episode 0, Confession. Then she backed it up to 2 drives and emailed a copy to herself. The subject line read, Legacy Proof. As the meeting ended, Ava and Landon posed for a photo with the investors flashing perfect smiles. Iris snapped one too from her car window, their silhouettes framed against the club's golden entrance. It would look beautiful in court. She started the engine dust, swirling around the tires as she pulled away from the glamorous facade. For the first time in weeks, she didn't feel trapped. She felt architectural. She was building something again, this time not out of glass and steel, but out of evidence and patience. The blueprint was clear, and the walls were closing in, just not on her. The next morning, Iris sat at her desk with her tablet scrolling through the app Ava had bragged about the smart home control system. Sleek interface blue icons, perfect illusion of security. She found the contact number at the bottom of the screen, Harrison Tech, Home Integration Specialist. She remembered that name. Her husband had once praised a young technician named Cal Harrison for his honesty. She called. Mrs. Conway. His voice was older now, but still steady. I remember this system. Haven't touched it in years. What's wrong? Maybe nothing, Iris said carefully. Or maybe someone's been using my house as a cage. A pause. Then tell me what you see. She shared her screen. Harrison guided her through the back-end menus, ones Ava clearly didn't know Iris could access. Rows of timestamps appeared, each marked lock engaged remotely. Harrison frowned. These aren't automated triggers. Someone locked those doors from a linked device, probably their phones. Iris leaned closer. The list scrolled endlessly. 06:12 p.m. Master door secured. 09:44 p.m. HVAC zone 2 disabled. Each entry aligned perfectly with her memories. The first lockout the night without air, the afternoon she'd been asked to rest. Can you extract the logs, she asked. Harrison hesitated. They'll know I accessed it. That's fine. I want them to. He laughed softly, half admiring, half nervous. You always were sharper than most clients. By noon, she had the file an encrypted document titled Event History. Owner copy. She saved it onto her drive beside the audio recordings, labeling the folder Evidence to her smart system. When she reopened the app, the interface now showed a new user tag under her profile. Unauthorized admin, Ava L. Iris stared at it, a bitter smile forming. Smart home, she thought. Stupid crimes. She took a screenshot and whispered to the glowing screen, Thank you, Ava. You've just drawn your own blueprint to jail. Outside, the desert wind carried the faint echo of laughter from the main house. But inside the studio, only one sound remained, the quiet hum of a machine now working for her. The machine hadn't sung in years. Iris lifted the dusty cover from her old Singer sewing machine, the one her husband used to tease her about. You can fix the world with a needle, he'd said once. Tonight, that didn't sound like a joke. The gears creaked when she pressed the pedal. The sound half hum, half growl filled the studio. It felt alive again. She spread fabric on the table, linen napkins, curtains, a half-finished tablecloth with faded embroidery. Each carried memories of warmth, of dinners, of laughter that didn't hurt. She ran her fingers over the seams, then began cutting. Not for beauty this time. For purpose. From the cabinet, she took out her husband's old camera bag and the small recording modules she'd salvaged. With careful precision, she began stitching pockets of silence, hidden compartments beneath layers of fabric. one inside a table runner, another in a pillow, cover two more in the hems of curtains near the living room. Every puncture of the needle was rhythmic, deliberate. Stitch. Breathe. Record. When she finished, she held up the first piece, a soft beige runner, lined with an invisible cable. To anyone else it looked ordinary, but Iris knew it could listen. She folded each finished piece neatly, labeled them with small chalk marks, and packed them in a wicker basket. Tomorrow, when Ava demanded a more neutral background for filming, Iris would offer these. They would become part of the set and part of the truth. Her reflection in the glass wall looked different tonight. The wrinkles were the same, but her eyes glimmered with that old design light, sharp, alive, calculating. She whispered to her reflection, "They made me invisible. Let's see how they like being watched." The sewing machine stilled. The desert outside sighed through the vents, and in the quiet, after the hum, Iris Conway, seamstress, architect, mother, became something new, a strategist. It started with a sound she used to love, Landon's laughter. But this time, it came from the next room, rough around the edges, fueled by wine. Iris stood behind the half-closed glass door, the faint green light of a recorder glowing inside her pocket. Ava's voice first. "We can't keep pretending she's fine, Lon. She's slowing down the brand." Landon sighed. "I know, but she'll fight if we bring it up. The facility in Palm Vista is ready. I've already talked to the director." Facility. The word hit her chest like a crack through stone. Ava continued, casual as poison. "Good. Once she's there, we can remodel without her interference. Then we sell or rent it, still profit either way." He chuckled. "She'll thank us one day. I mean, it's luxury. Pool nurses, everything. And distance," Ava added. "Distance keeps her out of frame." The laughter that followed was small, intimate, cruel. Iris pressed her palm against the cool glass to steady herself. Her heart felt old, but her mind sharpened, like the edge of a drafting knife. She clicked the recorder off and stepped quietly back into her studio. The night air pressed close, heavy with heat and silence. She poured herself water, watching her hand tremble only slightly. Once she'd dreamed her son would build higher, better, kinder. Now he was building walls around her. She opened her notebook, drew a single straight line across the page, and wrote beneath it, "Fault line, emotional neglect, financial motive, confinement." Then she added a date, a timestamp, evidence. The house groaned as the desert wind hit its panels, the sound echoing like something breaking underground. She looked up and whispered, "Every structure cracks before it falls." And this one, she promised herself, would collapse beautifully. By noon, the house was staged like a showroom, vases ring lights and scripted smiles. Ava fluttered between the rooms in a silk jumpsuit, rehearsing lines under her breath. "Today, we welcome the Grant Committee to the Conway residence, a living symbol of transformation." Landon adjusted his tie, checking his reflection in every pane of glass. "We need this deal. Keep her out of sight until they leave." "She's in the studio," Ava said. "The door's locked." Again. Iris heard it all from inside. She sat calmly at her drafting table, tracing quiet circles on an old blueprint. The house hummed around her, the hidden microphones alive, the cameras disguised in fabric and decor, quietly blinking green. Through the glass, she watched black SUVs pull into the driveway. 4 representatives stepped out, their desert chic attire blending into the sunlight. The door opened. Ava's voice turned syrupy sweet. "Welcome to the Desert Revival," compliments, laughter, the clink of glasses. Landon guided them through each space like a salesman in heaven's lobby. "My mother envisioned this place decades ago," he said proudly. "We're honoring her legacy by making it modern." From her studio window, Iris smiled faintly. Legacy. What a word to steal. When the tour reached the main hall, one of the guests pointed toward her studio door. "Will we meet Miss Conway herself?" Ava hesitated. She's resting. The heat sometimes. The guest cut her off. We insist. A family legacy deserves all its voices. Panic flickered across Ava's face. Landon forced a grin and unlocked the door. Iris rose slowly, the light from the window wrapping her like armor. Welcome, she said evenly. I hear my home has become quite the spectacle. One of the investors smiled. Your son and daughter-in-law speak so fondly of your partnership. Partnership, Iris repeated softly. How flattering. Behind her, a gust of wind slammed against the panels. One of her linen curtains fluttered, knocking a small cactus planter off the shelf. It fell shattered, and the black lens inside blinked once before dying. The room froze. Ava's voice broke first. That's just a Censor A decor piece. But the older investor, sharp-eyed, bent down and picked it up. This is a recording device. Silence thickened like smoke. Landon's smile cracked. It must be old equipment. My father Iris stepped forward, calm, composed. No, it's mine. This house records everything, has for weeks. Ava's face drained of color. You what have you, Proof Iris said quietly. Of ownership, of consent, of every word you've said under this roof. The guests exchanged uneasy glances. The air conditioner hummed louder, fighting the heat radiating from the glass walls. Landon's jaw tightened. Mom, let's talk privately. Iris's eyes locked on his. Oh, we're long past privacy. One of the committee members cleared his throat. Perhaps we should reschedule. No need, Iris said, voice steady as steel. You came to see a story of renewal. Consider this the truth version. She turned to the broken cactus on the floor and added softly. Some roots only grow when the soil cracks. As the guests backed toward the exit, Ava reached out, whispering, You've ruined us. Iris smiled faintly, her reflection multiplying across every glass panel. No, Ava. I just stopped sowing your version of the story. Outside, the desert wind howled again, like applause for the woman who'd just taken back her house. By sundown, chaos buzzed through the glass house. Ava's voice ricocheted from room to room, sharp as static. We're going live in 5 minutes. We take control of the narrative, okay? She's old, she's confused, it's emotional misunderstanding. That's our angle. Landon paced behind her face, pale. We can't spin this, Ava. The committee saw everything. Yes, we can, she snapped, powdering her face. Audiences love redemption arcs. Across the courtyard, Iris sat in her studio watching them through the transparent wall. Her tablet glowed softly in her lap file name, Episode 0, Confession. She waited. 3, 2, 1. Ava's ring light blinked on. Her voice turned syrupy, rehearsed. Hey, loves. There's been confusion today. My sweet mother-in-law has been struggling under the stress of filming. We love her dearly, and Iris pressed upload. The sound file posted to every platform under her name. Ava's recorded voice. Once she's moved into assisted living, we'll handle the property transfer officially. The clip spread like wildfire. Within minutes, the live stream chat exploded. She planned to dump her Justice for Iris trending. They forged papers. Ava froze, mid-sentence, eyes darting to her phone as notifications poured in. Landon's face drained of color. What did you do? Across the glass. Iris met their gaze. Calm, silent, immovable. Her reflection glowed in the blue light of the trending feed lines of text flashing across her face. Elder abuse. Fraud. Betrayal. Ava's voice cracked. She's sabotaging us. She doesn't understand what she's done. Iris stood, walked to the center window and drew the curtain halfway, dividing their worlds cleanly in two. She whispered, knowing the mics would catch every word. I understand perfectly. Outside, phones lit the desert like fireflies. Inside, the empire of filters and ring lights began to melt under the unfiltered light of truth. By morning, the desert shimmered with noise. News vans lined the long driveway like vultures. Drones hovered over the glass house, their shadows slicing through sunlight. Headlines bloomed across every screen: elder abuse exposed in desert mansion. Influencer couple accused of exploiting mother for fame. Ava hid upstairs, curtains drawn. Landon paced the kitchen phone pressed to his ear, whispering to a lawyer who had stopped returning his calls. Iris stepped outside. Slowly, deliberately. The sun caught in her silver hair, turning it into a halo of quiet defiance. Reporters surged forward. "Mrs. Conway, is it true your son forged your signature? Do you plan to press charges? What do you want from all this?" She raised a hand, and somehow the crowd hushed. "I don't want revenge," she said, her voice clear as glass. "I want the truth recorded. I want women my age to know they're not burdens. And I want my name back on my house, on my life." Flashes burst like lightning. A journalist asked softly, "Are you angry at your son?" She looked toward the windows where Landon's shadow lingered behind the blinds. "Anger fades," she said. "But disappointment, that stays longer. Still, I hope he learns what love really means." The microphones trembled slightly in the dry wind. "Will you forgive them?" another voice asked. Iris smiled faintly. "Forgiveness is architecture. You rebuild only when the foundation is sound. Right now, mine is under construction." A murmur swept through the reporters. They weren't hearing a victim. They were hearing an architect reclaiming her design. As she turned back toward her house, the cameras caught one last image: the woman walking alone into the desert sunlight, steady and unafraid, the house glittering behind her like a confession made of glass. The empire fell faster than anyone expected. By the end of the week, sponsors pulled out. Brand partnerships vanished overnight. Their Desert Revival channel went dark. Comments disabled videos, flagged subscribers evaporating like mirages in heat. Ava's makeup line dropped her. Landon's firm suspended him pending investigation. The house grew quiet again. No ring lights, no laughter, no fake optimism echoing off glass. Just wind. From her studio, Iris watched them unravel. Ava sat on the patio, hair unbrushed, scrolling through headlines. "They're destroying me," she whispered. "They're calling me a monster." Landon stood beside her, pale and hollow. "They're calling me worse." Neither noticed the figure behind the glass, small, still, and calm. Iris turned away, closing the curtain. She poured tea, the steady clink of porcelain breaking the silence. She wasn't gloating. There was nothing sweet in this kind of justice. Only gravity pulling everything back to where it belonged. Her phone buzzed a message from the grant committee chairwoman. "We're sorry for the ordeal. The board has decided to restore all property rights in your name. Your work will be preserved, not exploited." Iris typed only 2 words in reply: "Thank you." Outside, Ava's voice rose cracking. "We can fix this, Landon. We'll post an apology, a statement." "Stop," he said softly. "It's over." His reflection in the glass met hers for a fleeting second. 2 versions of defeat. One earned, one endured. Iris set her cup down, walked to her drafting table, and unfolded an untouched sheet of paper. She drew a single clean line across the center. Straight and unwavering. Her new beginning. The desert wind swept past the windows again, whispering like sand across ruins. The house still stood, but everything false inside it had finally collapsed. The knock came just after sunset. When Iris opened the door, Landon stood there, thinner, older eyes, sunken, but sober. No cameras, no designer suit, just a man who looked like he'd finally seen his own reflection and couldn't recognize it. "Mom," he said quietly. "Can I come in?" She hesitated, then stepped aside. "You always could." The living room felt different now. Fewer lights, fewer lies. The air smelled like dust and tea. Landon sat on the edge of the sofa, his hands shaking. I lost everything, he said. Ava left. The firm's investigating. They're saying I could face charges. Iris nodded, unmoved, but not unkind. Consequences have a longer memory than people think. He swallowed hard. I didn't mean for it to go that far. I thought I was protecting us, making something bigger than myself. She looked at him steadily. You made something smaller than love. The words landed softly but pierced deep. He bowed his head, tears slipping soundlessly. I'm sorry, Mom. For the house, the papers, for everything. For a long time she said nothing. The desert light faded into amber behind the glass, wrapping them in silence. Then she spoke. You don't need to ask for me back, Landon. I never left. You need to learn how to build again without destroying what holds you. He lifted his gaze, eyes red. Do you still love me? She smiled faintly. Weary but certain. Love isn't the question. Trust is the architecture. And that, my son, takes time. He nodded, broken but breathing. Can I try start with yourself? She said. When he left, the door clicked softly shut. Iris turned toward the window, watching the horizon burn gold light, rebuilding itself from ruin. The house was quiet again. Not empty, just honest. Sunlight spilled across the drafting table, dust motes drifting like tiny constellations. Iris moved slowly, her hands steady, as she unfolded a blank sheet of vellum. The paper caught the light, soft as memory. For the first time in years, she began to draw. Not blueprints for investors or clients, but for herself. Simple lines of balance and breath. A room open to the sky, windows without locks, corners that held warmth instead of fear. Outside, the desert had started to bloom again. The season's first rain had passed, leaving tiny bursts of green between the rocks. She stepped onto the patio, barefoot, the tiles warm beneath her feet. 5 new cactus pots lined the railing. Fresh soil, small sprouts pushing through. She watered them gently, whispering the way she once did to her son as a child. Grow slow. Grow strong. Don't break the surface too soon. The breeze moved through the open space, rattling the glass gently, like applause in a language only the desert understood. She returned to the table, placed a hand over her drawing, and smiled. The design wasn't perfect. It didn't need to be. It was alive. The old microphones were gone. The curtains new. The air light and unguarded. Her phone buzzed an unread message from a journalist. Your story inspired thousands. Would you consider speaking at the Architecture and Ethics Summit next month? Iris chuckled softly. Ethics. The one material no one had wanted to build with until now. She typed back, maybe. If I can talk about foundations. As dusk fell, she closed her sketchbook and stood by the window. The horizon bled orange into indigo. This time there was no reflection of fear, only her own face, calm, unbroken. The architect had rebuilt her solitude and made it home again. The stage lights were softer than the desert sun, but just as unforgiving. Iris stood behind the podium palms, resting on the cool surface of wood and glass. The auditorium was full. Architects, journalists, students, people who had once followed her downfall and were now here to hear her rise. The host introduced her with reverence. Tonight, Ms. Iris Conway speaks on the architecture of trust. Applause rippled through the hall, steady, respectful. She looked down at her notes, just 3 sentences handwritten in blue ink. Then she looked up. When I was 20, she began, her voice calm but resonant. I believed buildings were about symmetry and strength. That if you built something perfectly, it would last forever. She paused, letting the silence settle like sand after wind. But time taught me something different. Buildings don't stand because of walls. They stand because of foundations, and foundations are made of trust. Without it, even the most beautiful structure will crack. The crowd listened, still and quiet. She smiled faintly. Years ago, I forgot that. I let people walk through my life the way tourists walk through museums, admiring, photographing, but never understanding. I thought love was endurance. I was wrong. A few pens stopped moving. Every ear leaned closer. I learned that love, like design, needs boundaries. You measure it not by how much you give, but by how much you protect what's sacred. A tremor caught her voice, but she didn't hide it. When my home turned into a studio and my family into a brand, I realized sometimes the only way to rebuild is to let the old structure fall. She took a deep breath, the microphone catching it like a heartbeat. Forgiveness, she said softly, is renovation. You don't erase the damage you understand. It reinforce it. Make it honest. And when you're done, you live inside it again, not afraid of its cracks, but proud of its survival. The audience exhaled as one. Iris glanced up toward the back row. She thought she saw a familiar silhouette. Tall, still watching. Landon. He didn't wave, didn't smile, but he was there, listening. Her voice warmed. So if you ask me what I build now, it isn't houses. It's space. Space for truth, for silence, for people learning how to begin again. She closed her notes. And if there's one blueprint worth sharing, it's this. The heart is an architectural masterpiece, if only we remember to keep its doors unlocked. For a moment, the hall stayed silent, as if holding its breath. Then came applause, soft first, then rising, rolling, echoing like thunder across the glass walls of the auditorium. Iris bowed slightly. The light from the stage hit her face, bright and forgiving. Outside, through the high windows, the desert shimmered in twilight, an ocean of gold giving way to violet. It looked, she thought, like a house made entirely of light. And for the first time in her life, she knew she had finally built something that would last. The afternoon wind carried the scent of rain, a rare, almost mythical promise in the desert. Iris heard the knock before she saw him. Soft, hesitant, almost like the sound of memory asking to come in. When she opened the door, Landon stood there again. Not the boy she'd raised, not the man who had hurt her, but something quieter. Someone stripped of ego, left only with truth. I heard the storm last night, he said. Your roof. It's leaking. She looked up. He was right. A thin line of light filtered through the ceiling panel, a wound in glass. Without another word, Landon stepped inside, carrying a small toolbox. No cameras, no audience, just him, his trembling hands, and the mother he'd nearly lost. They worked side by side in silence. He held the ladder while she steadied the beam. She fetched the nails. He hammered them in place. Each soft tap echoed like a heartbeat being rebuilt. Outside, the horizon glowed pink and gold, the desert alive again after the storm. The house, their house, breathed with them. At one point, Landon looked down, voice barely above the wind. I saw your speech. Iris smiled faintly. You stayed till the end. He nodded. You talked about forgiveness like architecture. I didn't understand it until now. She adjusted a wooden panel, testing its strength. And what did you learn? That forgiveness isn't something you ask for, he said. It's something you help repair. The words hung there, simple, human, real. When the roof was fixed, they sat on the porch, hands, dusty clothes streaked with sunlight. The silence between them wasn't heavy anymore, it was breathable. Landon stared out toward the sand dunes. You think we can ever rebuild? Iris traced a line in the dust with her finger the way she used to draft floor plans. The foundation's still here, she said softly. It always was. We just stopped looking at it. He followed her gaze to the horizon where the last rays of sun lit the glass walls of the house in gold. Through the reflection, they looked like two figures inside the same light. For the first time in years, Iris rested her head gently against his shoulder. No words, no promises, just warmth. As night fell, the stars flickered over the desert like blueprints drawn in fire. The repaired roof held steady above them, creaking softly in the breeze, alive, imperfect, but strong. Landon whispered, "You still design beautifully, Mom." She smiled. "Only because I finally learned what lasts." The wind stirred again, brushing across the cactus pots on the railing. Their new spines shimmered silver under moonlight, proof that even the toughest things grow toward the light. And in the hush that followed, mother and son sat together. Two architects of the same home. Their silence the final line on a blueprint called forgiveness. The house glowed quietly behind them. The desert exhaled, and the foundation remained. How did this story touch you? Share your feelings in the comments and give it a rating from 1 to 10. Remember to like, share, and subscribe, then tap the bell icon so you'll always stay updated. And don't forget, click on the end screen to watch more heartfelt videos waiting for you. See you soon!